Resident Evil 2 is a survival horror game that was originally released on the PlayStation on January 21st, 1998, and was later ported to the Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, GameCube, PC, and Game.com. Now, I played this on the Nintendo 64 version, which is a 2-disc PS1 game beaten into a 64MB cartridge. But this isn't just some crappy remake, it is a legitimate port, and I have no idea how they did this. All content from the PS1 version is in here, and the only thing I can see is the cutscenes and sound have been compressed.
Wait! Don't shoot!
Get down!
Wait! Don't shoot!
Get down!
Even with all these changes, it didn't hinder my experience. It just didn't look as crisp. But you didn't come here for the comparisons. So how is the game? In Resident Evil 2, you play as Leon Kennedy, a police officer on his first day for the Raccoon City Police Department. He arrives in town and meets Claire Redfield, a student looking for her brother. They eventually split up, only to meet again at certain moments. Things are going too well in Raccoon City, so the main goal of the game is to escape the city. Once you beat Leon's campaign, you can also play Claire's. There are some new characters, and it is a different story using the same locations. There are some new rooms to a location, but the layout is pretty much the same. The actions you performed as Leon do have a direct effect on Claire, though. Their stories are directly intertwined with each other. Something you remember happening in Leon's campaign could be caused by something that happened in Claire's campaign. Resident Evil 2 is made around the hardware limitations of these systems, but they use these limitations to great effect. The camera is the main limitation. They had to use a fixed camera, but the way they position it always suits the mood. Doors are another limitation. Every time you go through a door, but this doesn't affect the final product of the game, because the atmosphere of Resident Evil 2 well makes up for it. The music is what drives the atmosphere. It fills you with a sense of dread, a feeling that you don't want to know what's around the corner. Some rooms have no music, only the sounds of Leon's footsteps or the sounds of fans and electrical panels. The music can also inform the player of their situation. The music starts playing before the door animation finishes, so it can let you know if you are in danger or not. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, I'm safe. You don't know how relieving it is sometimes when you open a door and hear this. However, the music never overwhelms the player. It doesn't become so loud that you can't hear the footsteps of Leon, because you can also hear if there is a zombie from anywhere in the room. The camera is mostly fixated towards the player in hallways and rooms, and you can never see around corners until you go around them. If you run too fast, you may get caught by a zombie just off camera, so it forces the player to be cautious. Knowing a threat is there, but not being able to see it is a great way of setting up tension. The camera also sets the mood, especially with establishing shots. A good example is when you first enter the Raccoon City Police Station. The camera is low to the floor, slowly peering up into this big hall as ominous music plays. This shows how big and mysterious the police station is, and the player knows that they are about to spend a lot of time in here. Resident Evil 2 is suspenseful because the atmosphere keeps the tension for the few jump scares in the game. The box even says so. Now let's talk about the controls. The tank controls are very hard to get used to. It took me over an hour trying to get into the police station. I couldn't get around these zombies without accidentally running into them or pulling a 180, and when I finally got to this section, I just gave up and ran right through, taking whatever damage I did. Once you get into the police station, you can try and get a good sense of how the controls handle. However, in the Nintendo 64 version, there are multiple control options, and you can change them to analog controls. I realized this after I beat Leon's campaign, so I used them during Claire's campaign, and I have to say, I like the crappy tank controls better. Tank controls are very limiting in movement. You can only turn when standing still, and you can only move forwards or backward in the direction you are facing. You always have to be aware of surroundings so that you won't get caught by zombies, and the more damage you take, the longer it takes for you to turn. So when you're low on health, you have to be more reserved and keep a safe distance from them. Zombies aren't hard to kill, but they waste ammo, so you can choose not to attack zombies and run around them, but that takes some time to get used to. Analog controls are easier to control, but that's what I don't like about them. It's super easy to avoid zombies now, and when you are fighting them in a tight hallway, you can just turn around immediately. And most of the time, I felt like I had way more ammo than I ever needed. I'm not sure if they just give you this much ammo when you're playing as Claire, or if I just avoided so many zombies I didn't need the ammo. But leading up to the final boss, this was my loadout, and I only needed one of these guns to defeat him. Enemies are also a big part of the game. We talked about zombies, but those aren't the only enemies. Lickers are powerful and can kill you very easily. However, you can't shoot them from afar because they are low to the ground, and you can only shoot things on the ground that are close to you. So you have to use some of your most powerful weapons if you don't want to die. Mr. X isn't that much of a threat. You can typically just run around him, but you can defeat him for some ammo. That never felt like a good incentive to me, so I never tried to kill him. But Mr. X can provide some big spooks. My game isn't perfect, though. Most of the issues I have with the game is that it's dated. The tank controls are really annoying when you first start playing, and items don't stand out from any other item in the room. In some rooms, I ended up pressing A 1,000 times just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Some items sparkle, and you can learn to see what other items look like, but papers don't stand out. And sometimes you have to be at the perfect angle to grab something. I had this problem once. I didn't know what to do, so I went searching everywhere trying to see what I was doing wrong. It turns out I didn't grab this diary that had the key to the next area under it, even though I searched this room over and over. But these are small nitpicks, and they don't have too much of an effect on the overall game. I played this on the Nintendo 64 version, so I might as well talk about the things only in the Nintendo 64 version. The X-Files are files created to help fill the player in on events in other Resident Evil games, since we only got 2. You can change violence between low, medium, and high, and you can also change the blood color between blue, green, and red. For the spooky season coming around the corner, I'm giving it 8.5 zombies out of Halloween. Play Resident Evil 2. There are like 7 different ports. There's also that 2019 remake. Maybe I'll check that out. Just don't get the Game.com version.